It's okay, Margot, I'm in here. Just got done doing my morning chores. This I could have just shown. I hope that I'm not too low for the camera. I know that I don't have a microphone on. I realize that this might be just too quiet, and that's a risk that I'm going to have to take. At least there's not a lot of wind, and I do have a big mouth, so well, let's just hope it picks it up. So there's something going on in our country, in our society, in our entire world that has been really troubling. Now, when I say really troubling, I mean it's impeded my own family's peace, and it has divided us, our relationships, even my own children. And that's upsetting, because what could possibly divide a family, divide a country, an entire world? It's a collection of things, really. It's not just one topic. And contrary to what some of you might believe, it's not just one political leader. It started, I remember I was just dating my husband at the time. We just celebrated our 14th anniversary, wedding anniversary yesterday. He and I went to the zoo. It was a wonderful time. We had so much fun. And then we went to, first we went to a local city diner in St. Louis. I think it's called the Courtesy Diner. I highly recommend it in St. Louis. Then we went to the zoo. First we went to our daughter's house to help finish up some of her, setting up her new rental house that they purchased. And then we went to Courtesy Diner, and then we went to the zoo. Then we went to go see Quiet Place 2. That was pretty good, although I would have liked to see a little bit more into the future without having to buy another movie ticket in a year. But that's bygones. Let's go forward. So, back in 2007, I guess, 2008, there was this momentum started picking up about not hurting anyone's feelings, that people were more sensitive and they needed less of a strong or a stern upbringing and a much more gentle upbringing. Now, myself being on the side of a much more, maybe even in some cases too much of a disciplinarian, I found that alarming. And the reason I found it alarming was these children are being raised really, really soft. And when I mean really soft, I mean pussy soft. Pardon the term, but it's what it is. The young people are being raised without understanding what it is to cope with disappointment. They are sheltered more so than they ever were before. Parents in our society today have much more worth, much more wealth than ever before in our country's history. And you would think that that would be a good thing. And coming from someone who never had wealth a day in her life, I always thought that that was the key that I never had. I used to think if my family were wealthy, my life would have been so much better. But I've come to understand that's not true at all. Because there's a place for suffering in our lives. There is a value to having to suffer through hard times. And there is a cost if we don't have to. And I think we're seeing that cost today. I think the cost of lack of suffering or the lack of coping from suffering is materializing in our society today. I think I have to say goodbye to my son. He's on his way to work, so if I say something, I'm talking to my son. Have a good day, Jordan! I want to be respectful to my son. He doesn't necessarily agree with everything I'm about to say. But that's because he didn't have it easy. I think it's our nature to want better. And I think that's what drives us to keep moving forward, to get better, both emotionally and also financially. And I think that's a valuable trait that human beings have. So now that our children have been brought up, in some cases, with a rather comfortable upbringing and a sheltered upbringing so that they may not have had to suffer some of the times of not being able to have what they wanted, or not being able to experience real disappointment, has led to them being weakened. Now, I know that evolution is a thing. I'm a born-again Christian, so I know that some might feel like, oh, Tracy's going to be anti-dinosaur, they never existed, or she doesn't believe in evolution and stuff like that. No, that's not me at all. I may think of evolution differently than some, but again, that's what makes us human. We're not all the same. Think about how boring life would be if we were all the same. Challenge brings interest. I think that's one of the reasons why someone like myself, when I was young, always wanted the bad boy. Challenge brings interest to our life. And if we're all the same, there's no real challenge, is there? So now we're seeing a world that is raised being able to go to college. Where'd my glasses go? Oh dear, can't lose these. We are raised with a society that gets to go to college, sometimes even private schools. I did go to a private elementary school. It was a Catholic school, St. Mary's in Dumont, New Jersey. What's up? And I think that was on the school's charity dime because we didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. My parents were divorced when I was very, very young. My father left us with my mother's dad, my Grandpa John, who was an immigrant from Germany. he came over through Ellis Island, which for anyone who is not familiar, the Statue of Liberty, that system of immigration was in place back in I think he came over to our country in 1940 or 41. He left Germany in 1941, 42. It was during a time when Hitler was rising up in Germany. And so my grandfather knew struggle. He knew suffering. He knew hard work. And he knew what it was to have challenges. And he knew what it was to succeed and to keep pressing forward. He never gave up. And just think of what my grandfather, deviate a little bit, just think about what my grandfather, who has since passed, and I'm thankful for that because he was a hothead. What was going on when my grandpa was alive? What? He would probably have lots to talk about at the dinner table, that's for sure. My grandfather was raised in Nazi-torn Germany. He immigrated to a country who dropped half of his last name because it was easier. I know what? He was all by himself with just his wife, and he made it work. And they worked, and they suffered, and they worked some more, and they survived. They had 2 daughters, my mother and her sister, which was 10 years older than her. And they made a life here in America. And it was a good life for their daughters. My mother would become, or always was, I'm not really sure, but she was a little bit more, she was raised more gently than her oldest sister. Her oldest sister had it a little tougher. She was 10 years older. She had to see a little bit more of the suffering that mom and dad had gone through. And my mom was raised a little gentler, a little easier. She had everything she wanted. She had the pretty little dresses. She had the pretty little shoes. She was just raised really nicely. Now, her older sister was much tougher than my mother. My mother was rather sappish. She was really kind of a mush. Now keep in mind, I only knew my mother once I was born, but I can only say from what I've experienced with her once my father left her is that she fell apart. My mom disintegrated mentally after my father left her. My father brought my mother and her 3 daughters, I'm the youngest, to my grandfather's house, and he said, "Here's your daughter back." And he left. I think back in the time, I guess if it was about the time when I was about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old, so that would be 1975. He probably paid about $100 a month or $50 a month for child support. And the rest was on my grandfather. My mother did not work. She never worked after the time that she had, shortly after my father had divorced her. She never worked again. She relied on her father for everything. To discipline her daughters, to financially support them and herself. And he was bitter about it, I could tell. He was a very tough old man. He was hard to get along with. He was unreasonable a lot of the time with us girls. To the point of even just a little bit abusive, although he caught himself before he got too far. I remember there was one time, us girls were just tearing up the house. And I was running all around, and I had to be about 9 or 10. And Grandpa started yelling, telling us to quiet down. Keep in mind, he must have been in his 60s or 70s. I can't imagine how absolutely frustrated he was to end up with his daughter and 3 of his granddaughters back with him again. And he came tearing around the stairs where I was running upstairs, and I lost my footing, and he had gotten a hold of my shirt right here. And my grandfather was a carpenter, but he had some fingernails on him. I think he used them for his work, kind of like I do. And he had grabbed my shirt because he wanted to say, "Cut it out!" And what he did was, his fingernail had sliced my chest here, and it had bled. And I remember him, I looked down and I looked at him, and he just let go. And I ran back up the stairs. And that was the only time that my grandfather ever put his hands on me. I think it scared him. But can you imagine? Can you put yourself in my grandfather's place? We were not, let me talk about myself. I was not an easy kid. I was very active. I was very athletic. I was a tomboy. I was just not an easy kid. My sisters were much more easygoing, although my older sister, who has passed away since, was much more, she really used strength and stubbornness, I think, is to her advantage, which I also share. My middle sister was much easier. She was much quieter. But I was trouble. I mean, I caused trouble. I get into things. And I don't think my other 2 sisters were that type, but I was. I can't even imagine I told my own kids, if you end up homeless, you're homeless. You're not coming back to live with us. Forget it. Because that's just the way I am. I think I do more help to my children by telling them, you're on your own. Because that's the way it's meant to be. You know, you need to make good decisions so that you can have a good life on your own. It's just the type of person that I am. And that's the type of person that I am because I was raised that way. I was raised that when I got pregnant, I was on my own. Although they never told me that. They just didn't want the man that I had the baby with anywhere near them or me. So that translated to me that I was in fact on my own. And I packed up my baby in my little stroller and we walked, 4 or 5 miles to where he lived. And we lived in his mom's house for a time. And from that point on, it was just from one house to another house to another house to another house. But basically we were on our own. Somewhat. We had help from family. But there was suffering. It didn't work out in the end. I think I was married to him for 12 years. And there was hardship. There was physical abuse. He was very physically abusive to me. Not in a way that people are physically abusive now to their people. But I'm minimizing it, I'm sure, because I think we all tend to do that. If it's not the worst case scenario and I'm not 10 feet under in a grave somewhere, I think I got off easy, and I don't think that's wrong. I think I did. I think God delivered me. I think God protected me because he had more things for me to do. I don't think that. I know that because here we are now. So with the disappointments of my first marriage, I moved on and I found my second husband. And we married once I was done divorcing my first husband. And I just moved from the first marriage to the second. And I really thought that man was my prince. And he just seemed perfect in every way. I mean, he just gave me everything I really ever asked for, if he could. And you'd think that would be, that would make me happy, but you know what, it didn't. Because there was no challenge. He was too easy. He He would give me everything I wanted. He would agree with everything we said. I don't think we ever had one fight. That's not to say I would ever leave him. Inevitably, he left me for another woman. And I would never want to leave him. In fact, I waited 3 years while that man carried on with this other woman without even uttering a word to me about it. I just, through discernment and the Holy Spirit, figured it all out with God, what he was doing. And inevitably, he did walk out on my children and I. In fact, he did it in one of the most brutal ways that you could. I still have PTSD. I guess that's what they call it. I call it moments that are familiar to my hardship with him, still snapping back, and it can send a fear and an insecurity into me that is really unmatched. But I was at work one night, and he put all of his things in a garbage bag. And all 4 of our children were there. Now 3 from my first husband and 1 from him. But he had made a point of saying they were his children. So I don't misspeak when I say our children. So he took all of his belongings, he put them in garbage bags, and he told the kids as they were playing video games, and Timothy, my oldest son, was on the computer, that he was taking out the trash. And so the kids didn't think anything of it. Now again, I was at work, and I worked the evening shift at Target. And when I came home, I walked in the door, and my son Timothy said, "Is Dad with you?" And I said, "No." And Timothy looked at me with a sick look in his face, like, "Mom, he went out. He's not here." And he left. So I know disappointment. Boy, do I know disappointment. But did I give up? No. Don't give up. You press on. You keep working, you keep living, you keep moving forward. I tried so hard to be still for 3 years and wait for him to come to his senses and come back to his family, but he never did. He'd come in and out of the family, and we can make this a whole tearjerker. Believe me, it's nasty. It's wicked. I'm not that type of person anymore, and I don't want to give glory to the devil and share with you the messy details of the individual he is in fact still with today, or how it went about. I'm not going to do that, because that's not what this video is about. This video is about struggle and suffering and the value thereof. We must, as a human race, suffer. If we don't, we evolve into something weak. We evolve into a society that words are harmful to the point of physical damage. Maybe not to us, but to other people we inflicted upon. Do you remember, I remember growing up with this saying, and it gave me power, it gave me strength. And it's not something that you hear anymore, and it kind of is upsetting because it's very important. And like I said, it strengthened me. You said it to your challenger. You said it to your adversary. You said it to the nasty kid down the road, or the girl that drives past you as you walk to your lunch and calls you a skank while she's driving down the street out the window. It's what you say to yourself or to them if you're younger is, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." And it was powerful to me. I wore it. We didn't have Iron Man or I don't even think we had Superman very much, to look up to like a superhero. But to me, it was like a shield, you know. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And somewhere along the way, we've lost that. And I think we are suffering the consequences of that, that strength-building experience that we all need. And I think that really is the root cause of where we are today. Comedy. Remember comedy? Remember going to a stand-up comics show and them just ripping someone off? Not ripping someone up. Ripping someone up about the way they live, or the way they dress, or the way they sound, or the way they grew up, or the way they perform, or whether they think or they're not thinking. Almost said it, not going to do it. Where did it go? Where did comedy go? Where did being able to withstand words become physical violence? Where did words become so inflammatory that we can get banned from saying them? Not bad words, mind you, not curse words or slang words, just words that a group in our society has come to understand they are harmful for others to hear. What? Do we not have a skin at all? Are we all just naked nerves walking the earth right now? Are we all exposed nerves? Are we that soft? Is that what humans have become? Are we so soft that we can't take rejection without destroying the lives of hundreds in a warehouse where we lost our job because we were not performing adequately? Have we become so self-absorbed, consumed really, that we cannot experience suffering without inflicting suffering on others? Is that really what it's about now? I'm at a total loss. I don't know how to fix it, other than I believe it starts at home. Every individual with their own children. The family needs to stay intact. If you marry someone, I believe it's still in the vows, till death do us part. But we need to take that much more seriously. I'm starting to think that there really should be, excuse me, more understanding of marriage, and how better to learn that by the example of a mother and a father in the household to teach the children. That a mother and a father would behave in a way that would be respectable to their children. That sure would have helped me when I was a child. It's just such a disappointing place for us to be living right now in our society. It's very sad. But we can fix it. All we have to do is stop what we're doing or what we've done and just turn it around. Stand up and say something. And don't be so afraid to say what's right. Fear. Everyone's so afraid. We're afraid of a virus. We're afraid of dying. When did that become? How can we throw ourselves over mountains with a piece of fabric with some cord? And we're not afraid to do that, but we're afraid of the V or the C. But we can live such a risky life with the way we handle our own bodies. We take our life into our hands when we get into a car. But yet this thing that we have hovering over us, we're terrified of, and that doesn't make much sense to me. So I just wanted to speak my mind. I wanted to speak my heart about this. Because I heard one of my very respected subscribers and YouTube creators share his heart about what's going on. And I felt required to do the same. And I think if more of us would share our heart about what's going on in our world today, I think there's power in that testimony. And I think we need to give it. So don't be afraid to say what's right. We know it's right. We know it's the truth. Just say it. Say it with love in your heart in an effort to help others. And put it out into the air. Put it out there. Let someone hear it. Let someone hear the truth. And I believe we can come back from this. I really do. I think it's pretty simple, actually. So what do you say? Lee Carricker did it from Out on the Ranch with Dr. Lee. I've done it, Born Again Farm Girl. How about you be next? How about you speak out? Don't be afraid what comes at you or whether or not you lose subscribers. You have this platform to help others, so just do it. I can help others by teaching them crafts or painting or helping my ducklings or my horses. But I'm going to help this way too. I hope you were able to hear me through the animals around me. It's a farm after all. Yeah, I guess that's it. So just do your part, and I'll keep doing mine. And I hope someone sees this and hears it, and it receives strength, and receives confirmation that they're not the only one that thinks this way. There's plenty of us out here. We just don't know quite how to go about saying it. So God bless America, everyone. And be safe, be wise. And I can't end this without saying Jesus is the answer to every question. I hope you all have a wonderful day. God bless you. And I'll see you soon. Bye.